Did you know that Twitch has over 15 million daily users? That's the equivalent to the combined population of New York City and Chicago. You're listening to the Xbox Hub Podcast, the official podcast of the TheXboxHub.com. For all the latest Xbox news, reviews, videos, and opinions, make sure you visit the TheXboxHub.com. But for now, settle down, get comfy, and open your ears for some podcast delights. Hello, welcome to the Xbox Hub Official Podcast, episode 120. My God. My name's Gareth Bradley. I'm going to be your host, and on my virtual left is Mr. James Burks. How you doing, James?
Hello. All right, thank you. How are you?
James is very tired. I'm going to say this. He put all the enthusiasm into that. It was very good.
I'm spent now. I'm spent fast.
You're done.
Yeah.
On my virtual right is Mr. Richard Dobson. How you doing, Richard?
Hi, everyone. Good, thank you. How is everyone?
We're all good. Very nice of you to say. And on my virtual opposite is Mr. Darren Edwards. How you doing, Darren?
Hello, I'm very well. Yourself? It's been a little while.
Has, isn't it, you lot? We're going to have you on the next one as well, you two. So, yeah, we're going to settle in and put your feet under the fire, I was going to say, but that doesn't sound right. This is a special podcast because we're a day late, and the reason is because we watched the Xbox ID showcase on Twitch and all sorts of things. So we're going to go into that soon. But we're just going to talk about a couple of things that we've done this week. Darren, I'm going to start with you because you did something quite interesting, game-wise as well.
Yeah, so I did indeed. I was fortunate enough to go to the Games Music Festival a couple of weeks ago, which was in the Royal Festival Hall down in London's South Bank Centre. So it's been running, this is the 4th year, and it's a live music event for video game music, essentially. And they have some industry kind of experts, and they try and encourage those who are looking to get into the world of composing video game music, kind of give them a bit of a leg up, some advice. And it's been in Poland for 3 years. This is the first time in the UK, actually, and they chose London. So there was music from Cuphead and from the Ori games as well. So quite differing styles, but both sounded absolutely amazing, especially in a venue like the Royal Festival Hall. And the composer for Ori, Gareth Coker, was there as well. So he did a bit of an intro for the Ori sets, and then he did a Q&A afterwards. So I was fortunate enough to sit in on that as well and kind of listen to some of his insights and pearls of wisdom. It was just a fab day. Really, really good. Almost sold out as well. Like, it was full. So I'm really, and there was people of, all different ages and all sorts. It was a real kind of diverse audience. It was great. Really, really fun.
Great. And was there a full orchestra then?
It was, yeah. So the first, for Cuphead, it was a smaller orchestra, but it was still a full one, about 20 odd members, and it's all kind of jazzy Cuphead. So for those who have played it, it's kind of a game based on the 1930s kind of cartoon style, with a really kind of jazzy soundtrack, some kind of almost Latin American vibes in there as well. And then for Ori, it was a Philharmonia orchestra. And it filled the stage. And then in the second half of the performance, there was a full choir as well, the Hertfordshire Chorus. So it sounded absolutely incredible. So the first half they did Ori and the Blind Forest, and then they did Ori and Will and the Wisps for the second half. So yeah, it was brilliant.
Brilliant. And you've done an article on the Xbox Hub site. You can have a little read of that.
Absolutely.
The whole thing, more in depth. It sounds great. How long was it, Richard? Oh, Darren.
So the Cuphead set was around probably about 45 minutes. And then the Ori set was about 2 hours with a 15-minute interval in the middle. So it was a full performance.
Wow.
But, and they hardly broke between themes. So it was kind of a symphony. So it's called Symphony of the Spirit. So it all just kind of, each track blended into the next one. And the time went so quickly. Like, I couldn't believe it had been 2 hours. It was really, really kind of mesmerising. It was brilliant.
My last question, and the other two might have questions. Did you have was there bits of the game on a projector or anything, or was it just completely?
No, there wasn't. So they said at the beginning that they wanted the audience to really focus on the music, so they weren't going to have flashy effects or, like you see on video games live where there's footage in the background, like you say. There was none of that. It was just a kind of a really stripped back, bare bones performance in terms of visuals, but it helped everyone just kind of focus on the music, which is what they're really passionate about.
Brilliant. Have you two got any questions?
Just the one.
Yeah. Go ahead.
In your own time, Richard.
So you said that Gareth Coker was there because I know that he's recently been involved with the Halo Infinite soundtrack, but was it just purely focused on Cuphead and the Ori games for this?
So the performance was, so he was on stage at the beginning and the end of Ori, but in the Q&A, so they were selling like VIP tickets, so you had to buy them to get into the Q&A. But it was basically talk about anything in that. So somebody asked him about his time and on Halo and how he approached that, because he was with Ori from the very beginning. Whereas Halo, as we well know, has got a long history, 20 years and counting. So he said that he was really kind of mindful of that when he went in and co-composed the soundtrack. But as I said in my review, I thought Halo Infinite sounded as good, if not better, than any of the others that have come before it. I love the soundtrack for Infinite.
Good. William, that sounds great, Darren. Richard, have you had a week to follow that up? What have you been doing?
I went for a night out in Sheffield.
That's better.
Oh,
That's
good
better.
times.
Yeah. Was it good?
Yeah, no, it was a good night out. So it was after the gig that I mentioned that I was going to. Luckily, it was on the Friday night. Then we just went out for a bit of a night out in Sheffield afterwards, and then I drove home.
Anything happen? Anything bad?
My friend fell. So during the gig, she fell and then had someone fall on top of her in the mosh pit, and then spent the rest of the evening hobbling about.
Oh, God. Oh,
no.
Big shout out to Richard's friend. Sorry, I hope you get well soon.
She'll be fine.
Good. James, what about you? Anything to top these two events?
Oh, well, I went to orchestra myself. In the Grand Theatre, and I was in my room listening to Spotify. The Phantom Menace soundtrack, fantastic. Highly recommended. If you haven't heard it, it's a great film.
It's got Duel of the Fates, Phantom Menace, isn't it? Is that the one?
Yeah, that's the
one. I think Tottenham come onto that. Tottenham football team, they come onto that music, don't they? I'm sure they do. I'm sure they arrived to that.
God.
Yeah.
It doesn't really spur them on, does it?
Oh, still very good. Very good. Great, James. I'm good. I'm glad of that. I'm going to give you a clue to what I did this week. First of all, I'm going to ask this question. Why is... I've forgotten his name already. Who's... I've got his name. I can't believe it.
Great.
Who's the guy...
I've got to guess who you are.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Why is Robert Pattinson... Is that his name? It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why is Robert Pattinson terrible at being a vampire?
It's taken him 20 years to turn into a bat.
Brilliant, Richard. That's why this is the kind of stuff we get on here, isn't it? It's good.
This podcast is peaked already. we can't cover it.
I set Richard up. He delivered the brilliant one line. It's great. That's what we like. Yeah, I went to see The Batman on Saturday in London, in the town, on the busiest night in London history.
What did you think?
I loved it. I thought it was great. It's 3 hours. It's really intense. It's like being slapped around the face for 3 hours. The soundtrack is amazing. And the effects are amazing. I think he's the best Batman, probably in a sense. It's the best Batman for me because it's very like the graphic novels, as in the feel of it, the kind of like the detective noise, and the whole thing of I'm not going to give anything away, but you've seen this. The suit's kind of like flexible. He can move in it. It looks handmade. He looks like a guy wearing a costume. It gets hit.
That's one question.
Yeah, go on.
You said he's the best Batman. Do you mean Batman in its entirety, or like he's not a great Bruce Wayne? What is it? Is he a great Bruce Wayne as Batman?
everyone keeps talking about it. I don't care about Bruce Wayne. I never have. It's
What?
like I never have. I don't. But I think the two are. I think the difference here is the two are in this world. The two are inseparable. He doesn't.
Yeah.
He can't work out. It's very early on. It's 2 years into him doing it. He is vengeance. He is vengeance. So that's his kind of like thing. So he's not.
I can't believe he didn't get the role.
I know. I auditioned. I sent them tapes. they weren't listening. Yeah. So
He's doing just.
yeah. I loved it. I think it's really interesting because I think it's a 15. I don't think you can take kids along to see it. I think they might be bored as well because there's no comedy in this. There's no lightness. I don't think it's fair to say. It's the action, the fights are great, but it's kind of like it looks like Seven. The rain's coming down. It's quite the villains are quite dark. So it's but I loved it. I thought it was great. So if you haven't seen it, you three go and see it.
I saw it last week.
What did you think? Did you like it?
I thought it was good. Similar to you, I enjoyed his portrayal as Batman. I think I liked how he was a younger Batman to what had previously been shown. So it showed him as this imperfect vigilante where he still got hit and was not quite there in terms of, I think Christian Bale beforehand played an older version of Batman. It wasn't my favourite Batman film. I still think Batman Begins is possibly my favourite, but that's purely because it's got Scarecrow in.
There you go, yeah.
Who's my favourite Batman by it, but yeah, it's good.
I think I think The Dark Knight for me is brilliant. It's a very different feel, right? The Dark Knight, I think, and that maybe the Nolan stuff, was centered in reality. This is like a bit of both. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit of has that kind of fantasy. Gotham doesn't look real in a sense, and I kind of just love him appearing. I love it. He appears in police investigations, and some of the police just go, "Why is he here?" Like saying, which I really like all the time. Yeah,
I like that too. We went to see it.
Oh, you seen it as well?
How you saw? Yeah, we went last week, and I like how he was you saw Detective Batman.
Yeah.
And I really liked his portrayal. I didn't think I'd like him, but I thought it was good.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like I watched a 3-hour film. I was pretty much gripped all the way through. I thought it was. I really liked how they skipped the origin story at the beginning because we've seen that so many times.
Yeah.
And he is established as Batman already, as you say, and you kind of just straight into it. I enjoyed that a lot. Good.
Well, James, go and see it. Right, we've got to crack on. We're going to go straight into the ID Xbox showcase. We've picked 3 games each from it. But before we go on, basically, they pretty much did the same as last year, which they had 2 Twitch presenters, and the show was 2 hours long. There were breaks in between. How did you think it was? Darren, first of all, what did you... Just an overall comment. Do you think it was good? Do you enjoy it?
On the breaks, I thought I tuned into ITV during the football at one point. It was like every 10 minutes they were thrown into a break. I guess that's probably what the community wants these days. I'm probably showing my age. I've never really got on board with the whole watching somebody play a game and a streamer. So it was okay. I think it was probably suitable for the audience, but there was a lot of filler, and there was a couple of segments where they did a bit of a playthrough, and I kind of zoned out a little bit during them. But there were some really cool games in there, which I'm sure we'll come on to. So, yeah.
Richard, did you think it was a success?
I think it was better than the last year's.
Right.
Which,
good.
Yeah, it was certainly an improvement on last year's. It seemed to flow a little bit better than last year. Yeah. But I think because we knew what we were expecting with it this time around, we were a bit more prepared for it being a deeper look into some of these indie games as opposed to a presentation where it's just trailer after trailer.
Yeah. James, did you think it was better than last year?
I was just amused by the fact they kept saying, "It's live. This is live, guys. It's definitely live." I thought, we know it's live. If it was pre-recorded, it'd be more bearable to watch. It'd be better edited and in a better pacing.
Yeah, the pacing.
The pacing completely didn't work for me at all.
Yeah. I think what I love about it as well. I think I said to you guys when we were on Discord thing, and I said to you, they've just gone. It worked perfectly last year. Let's just do that again. And I think, and it's a very weird thing I find with everything when they keep going. We're live. Look at the comments. The comments are brilliant. Oh, a lot of you. And if you look at the comments, it's
a mixed bag.
It's a mixed bag,
to say the least.
Yeah. A personal highlight was at the start when they went a shout out to someone and then waited to hear the response. But there's no one there.
Yeah.
Well, the rehearsals went well.
Nice.
I said to you,
might feel that planning meeting.
I said to you, the first comment I saw was, I don't know why. Why have you banned me? I was just telling the truth. Which I loved. First one I saw. Great.
Brilliant. It's like they were defending themselves against conspiracy theories from the comments, directly responding to them. It was hilarious.
Mad. But there, we'll pick one, as we said, one game each, and let's start with James. What's your first game you want to chat about?
So it has to be Wrestle Quest.
Oh.
The only time I actually really paid full attention. And it's a RPG storytelling game with, what would you say, a lot of nostalgic wrestling infused into it. And it seems like they've got quite a few licenses as well. You can play as a character called, is it Randy Muchacho Man Santos? And he looks up to the likes of Macho Man Randy Savage and Andre the Giant, Jake the Snake Roberts, all the greats. And I think that's what took my attention, because these are the characters that I grew up with, and they're going to tell stories that are going to actually be interesting, because that is one of the biggest part of wrestling, it's the storytelling. And I think even watching the trailers, it's a turn-based game, but there's a little bit of input needs in the turn-based attacks. So you've got to get a pin, you've got to time your button presses and stuff, and you've got to hype yourself up before the match to get, better XP. And it just seems like a really well thought out wrestling love project. And I just think it looks fantastic.
Oh. And they had some wrestlers on, didn't they? Talking about it.
Yeah, they were talking to Jeff Jarrett and Booker T, who, I know Jeff Jarrett's in the game. I've seen Booker T as well. I mean, there's quite a few I noticed in the footage that they haven't announced yet, like Junkyard Dog and Sergeant Slaughter. I think even saw Hulk Hogan look-alike.
I saw Andre the Giant. Was he there?
Yeah, he was there. Darren Darth Page. And there was a Stone Cold Steve Austin wannabe. Obviously, again, they're not going to get Stone Cold, it's too big. And I think WWE have got his license. But it does look a really well developed storytelling RPG. And hopefully, when it comes out in the summer, I think it is.
I think it was summer, yeah.
I think it's going to absolutely be a great investment of my time.
Oh, look at that. Richard, you're a wrestling fan as well. You excited by this?
Yeah, turn-based wrestling RPG, and I'm sold.
Oh,
Looks really, really interesting. Can't believe it's taken so long for this idea to happen. Feels like it should have happened a lot quicker.
Wow.
But yeah, really, really interested in this one.
Good. And I'm not going to ask you, Darren, about it. I've got a feeling.
Thank you.
That I did good. Good. Yeah, I don't know what was going on. I zoned out at that point.
It was very exciting, I'll say that.
I did zone out. I zoned out, looked at something else. But it was good.
Craft. Theatre.
It's theatre. I just put in our list. I put James, Richard, a big highlight. Let's go to Darren. You're going to do your first game.
Yeah, absolutely. So probably one of the 2 or 3 main games I would say was Tunic, which I know caught the eyes of pretty much all of us, I think. it looks like a bit of a love letter to the original Legend of Zelda games, that kind of top-down view when you're roaming around dungeons and various exotic locations. But the hook, which is genius, is you play as a cute little fox character, and it just looks amazing. Like, it looks absolutely adorable. Cel-shaded graphics, loads of enemies, loads of little traps, like little spikes and steps and mazes. It's one of those, I think, that will suck you in, a proper adventure game. And when they started showing a bit of footage, they showed a bit after the main stream of another streamer playing it, and it was like an explosion of colour in the first few seconds of the game. So I'm really, really looking forward to getting my hands on it. And it's on, I think it went on Game Pass just after it was featured in the showcase yesterday. Like so many of these games are going to be on Game Pass. So I think it looks really, really cute, like Zelda, but you get to play as a fox. So what more could you ask for?
Good. And I think Neil from the Xbox Hub, he's reviewing it at the moment for us. So he's got Richard, you like this look at this as well, don't you?
Yeah, I had my eye on this one for a while now, and I was pleased to see it getting a shadow release as soon as it was brought up in this thing like yesterday. I've not had a chance to play it yet, but hopefully tonight I'm gonna have a go, because I'd seen a lot of comparisons being done to like you say Legend of Zelda, but then it had the combat in it was quite tricky as well. So yeah,
it does look. Everyone's saying it's going to be. It's hard. It's not a cute little game, is it? It's a hard game.
Yeah. So I think, like you say, Richard, I think it's quite technical, the combat, by the look of it. So you've got to make use of, like blocking properly, dodging, picking your time to strike. So yeah, the cutesy surface should not fool us. I think there's going to be a lot more to the gameplay.
I might be ready for it after my Elden Ring skill set now of patience in my skill. God, blimey. I've had to stop playing that game, by the way. Stop it for a while. Sit down for a while, forget that for a bit. Great, yeah. So as we said, Tunic is out now on Game Pass. So that's a really good announcement. I didn't know it was coming to Game Pass. Maybe I missed out on this, but yeah.
I think they said it wasn't quite recently.
Okay.
I think they were tricking us. And then they could go, guess what, guys?
Sneaky.
Oh, yeah.
Richard,
nice edition.
Yeah, it's really nice. Richard, what was your first one you want to talk
about? My first one is Chinatown Detective Agency, which has been announced for a while, but I don't know whether it was announced it was coming to Xbox until yesterday. So I'd sort of kept one eye on this, and it's a kind of like pixel art, film noir sort of type game. But what's interesting to me about this is, whilst it's point and click, there's elements in the real world that you need to then go off and investigate. So you sort of play a bit of this game, get to a point where it asks you, for example, I don't know whether this is in there, but it could ask you for details on a flight time or whatever, and then you need to go off and find and do a little bit of investigative work in the real world to discover what you need to do. So yeah, it's a unique concept that, and it looks really good. The pixel art in it is very impressive. I think that what they showed in this showcase was one of the voice actors that was going to be playing the part of one of the detectives.
Yeah.
And yeah, the voice acting sounded pretty good from what we saw from that. So I'm looking forward to this one. It looks great. It has that brilliant art style, but also it did seem there was quite a lot going on in there as well. It wasn't just a normal point and clicker like you just said. So yeah, when's that coming out? Do we know? It's Game Pass. We know that. I don't know. I think
it's just this year, maybe, wasn't it? I think it's 2022. Maybe. Yeah, Game Pass 2022. Oh, that's exciting. Who's done? Is it me? Is it my first one?
It's you.
Yeah.
God, what shall I choose? I'm going to go for Crusader Kings 3. I know about Crusader Kings 3 because I did a preview for us back in, God, when was it? In January, maybe. So I've had, or maybe Feb, I've had access to it for a while, and now I'm reviewing it for us for when it comes out on Game Pass on the 29th of March. For those who don't know, Kishoni can think T-Pain was the person who was promoted these adverts with T-Pain, which I really enjoyed. Did you enjoy that? It's just kind of like irrelevant, kind of like about him. None of
Beauty Empire.
Yeah, Beauty Empire. I liked him. I thought it was fun because it's quite a straight-faced game. It's if for those who don't know, it's like it came out on PC a while ago, but it's like a empire builder game. So it's very text heavy. You start in 1066. You choose a monarch or a baron of any region around the world. You're presented with a map, and basically your goal is to basically keep your legacy alive. You marry your offspring. You get gold. You go to war. You do secret missions to infiltrate other areas. You can be diplomatic. You can be you play the game in many different ways. You can be learning. You can do all about gathering your empire and making it kind of like a learning capital, or you could be a warmongering evil sod, killing everything. So it's up to you how you do it. It's very detailed. It's very kind of menu text heavy. I think we talked about it in the podcast before, but they've done a really good job at transferring it to console. Your tutorial will take you about an hour, and you'll forget everything. But yeah, I'm finding it really easy to kind of get used to, and it's a game that, as we said before, isn't on console. That is a very rare thing. It's a PC game on console. We've had that with the Football Manager game translation, which has its. But this feels like a really.
Some do it well, some don't.
Yeah, this feels like a really solid game that should only ever be on PC. So it's come here. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it at the moment, and I'll talk about it more when it's here. But I really enjoyed T-Pain. Thought it was very fun. Just me. Okay. James, what's your second game to talk about?
I don't know lots about it, but Trek to Yomi definitely caught my attention. I think mainly because of its like really old classic cinema look to it. You know, like an old samurai film or whatever. I think it looks stunning visually, and I think you play as a swordsman, and the idea is to, embark on an adventure to, let's say, get revenge after some tragedy. Because I think the main character's master gets killed. But yeah, the combat looks quite vicious, and you're doing a lot of, let's say, piercing of stomachs and beheadings. And I think that really calls to me.
But I think the art style is amazing, isn't it? That kind of black and white monochrome kind of sort of 2.5D world. It just looks. It does look amazing.
And I think they're going to mix it up with like not just swordsmen, but I think there's some like weird creatures in there as well, which will make it interesting. Yeah. So you're not just fighting the same enemy over and over again. But yeah, it looks very authentic for like feudal Japan era.
Yeah.
I was really interested.
I think it's going to be as hard as nails. I've got this feeling.
Yes. It does look tricky.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really full on. But yeah, it does look
a classic version of Sifu.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's not coming to Game Pass, is it? It's coming out in spring. But I don't think
definitely
it's
spring.
Yeah, it definitely didn't say Game Pass because
I could double check. But I don't think it is.
It was on the PlayStation State of Play as well. We saw it last time, didn't we? I think it was mentioned there. Good. Yeah, that looks great. Trek to Yomi, that's good. Spring. So spring now. Sun's out. Should be soon. Darren, what's your second one?
So my second one was the Immortality Trilogy. So I know I immediately thought of you, Gareth, when this came up. It looks like it'll be right up your street. But essentially, it's a 3-parter, and it's all around the disappearance of an actress called Marissa Marcel. So not long after she finished the 3 movies in the game, she disappeared. And then your job is to go and kind of pore over the footage that's been lost and come to light since and kind of solve the mystery. And it's uses like live action, so like FMV and stuff. And it looks really, really fascinating, like playing a top kind of detective drama that you'd watch on telly. So I know it was revealed last year, so I think we've been kept waiting for a kind of a new trailer and some proper footage and stuff, and it looks really, really good. I believe it's due to come out in a few months' time, but I don't think we've got a specific date just yet, saying summertime this year. But I'm just intrigued by it. It really caught my attention. Just the kind of cinematography already, I thought looked really, really impressive. So I'm excited to get into that world.
Yeah, I think it's on Game Pass as well. And I think there was an interview with Sam Barlow, the director, and he's done Her Story. Is that right?
10 Lives.
Yeah, 10 Lives.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think that's really good. Dan, I really like the different, because it's obviously the films that they're taking the footage from has different qualities, so they had a different kind of grade to each one, and it looked really intriguing. Really clever kind of idea that you're searching through footage, I think, as well. James, you like a FMV?
I do, but when I played 10 Lives, it just irritated me, that game.
Right.
I didn't really know what to do or where to go with it. So I hope this one's a little bit more. I know it's open-ended a little bit, as in there's a lot of choices, isn't there?
Yeah.
As to what that you can make. But I hope there's a little bit more of a hand-holding at the start, just to get you going.
Yeah.
I think this seems a really interesting concept.
Yeah.
And, it's fascinating. I think it's definitely on my radar.
Right.
But,
Good.
I'll give it a go.
Good. Great. Let's go on to the next one, which is Richard. Richard, what have we got?
My next one is Shredders, which is out on Xbox Game Pass today. So this is the snowboarding one, by Borders, for Borders, or something like that. So all the developers are keen snowboarders as well. So they've created this pure example of snowboarding by the sounds of it. And it's just caught my eye because I've sort of recently been going through a bit of a renaissance with snowboarding games, with the likes of Riders Republic at the end of last year, Downhill or Downslope, which came out a few months ago, and I recently wrote an SSX look retrospective piece for the site. So yeah, always a fan of a snowboarding game, and this one seems to take away all the additional elements that have been in more recent titles, and it's just pure snowboarding. I believe there's challenges set across these 7 peaks from what I read of a review. You just get to do snowboarding. I don't think there's too much to it. It could be argued it's maybe a little bit shallow, but if you're a keen snowboarder, I think you'll appreciate just hitting the slopes and doing a few tricks.
Yeah, I had a quick go at it today for 5 minutes, and the snowboarding stuff's really nice. The world is nice. Just ignore the people going, the narrative that goes with it. But that's all right. You can just skip that. People talk about YouTube channels and, hey man, let's get on the YouTube channel.
Those
a little bit
type
of that.
Of people.
Yeah.
Cringe.
Yeah, but we get rid of that. It's fine. Yeah, it's nice. It's really nice and it plays really well. I only did 5 minutes, but yeah, great. Shredders, good. Who is it now? Is it me again?
It is.
Oh my god, what am I going to choose now? I'm going to choose Artifacts of Chaos, and I think it had a name in front of that
Was it Clash?
I think it was. Yeah. I don't know how to describe this girl. This girl. It's not a girl. It's a game. Imagine a girl called.
I mean, Artifacts of Chaos could be quite spot on, to be fair.
Yeah, it could be, couldn't it? Artifacts of Chaos is a game that is a kind of really unique, kind of beautiful kind of art style. I don't know, remind me a bit like clay animation at one point, but it wasn't. It was almost hand drawn. It looked really unusual, and I think you play as this kind of like almost like a giant kind of character, almost a bit like Groot in a sense from Guardians of the Galaxy, who has a sort of like hairy little dog companion. It isn't a dog; it's a kind of creature. But it reminded me of a little dog, and basically you go into this kind of fantasy world, and you're fighting hand to hand, aren't you? It's a melee kind of game that you're exploring and punching, and that's what I got. Kind of like you knew you were doing some kind of like melee. There was a hairy dog. Something that looked like Groot. I like the animation. It just sold me straight away. What about you guys?
I thought it reminded me first off of Attack on Titan, which it's completely nothing like that, but just the character perhaps could have been taken from that world. But
right.
Yeah, the art style really won me over, and I do want to see a little bit more of it because it looks really interesting.
Yeah, it's not coming out till November, so it isn't. It's one of the later ones, I think, and I don't think it's come to Game Pass. James, do you like the look of this?
It's definitely got a strange aesthetic to the characters, which makes them kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the melee combat. I've never really been into melee games, really.
Right. Okay.
But no, probably not for me.
Oh, Darren?
It didn't grab me. The visual style reminded me a little bit kind of Borderlands-y a little bit, but no, it didn't really grab me, to be honest. But I might be doing it a disservice. But it didn't stand out amongst the ones that I saw.
Okay. What about Floppy Nights?
I don't know how to respond to that, to be honest.
Okay.
I'll come back to you next week.
Come on, Darren, you're good. Darren, what's your third game? Third and final game?
My third and final game was Curse to Golf. So we are partial to playing a bit of golf at the Xbox Hub, virtually, not real. I can't think of anything worse. But this looked really quite interesting. So essentially, you're trapped in a golf purgatory, and you've got to fight your way out of purgatory by playing golf, which sounds a little bit like real golf on the fairway, but there's more kind of powers. So there's different cards that you can collect. So they were showing things like where it'll burn vines away, or it'll turn water into ice, so it'll create a path for you to kind of get your ball to the hole, as it were. So it looks quite interesting, and it's got quite a cool kind of visual style, and it looks like it's not taking itself too seriously. You've got the kind of, I think it was the director of the game kind of giving you a bit of a demo in the trailer, and it was really fun, and they're calling it a golf-like rather than a roguelike, so that's kind of how they're going, because you're going to die loads of times in the process. So I just thought it had a bit of style that kind of caught my eye, and I think it'll be good fun, good kind of arcade fun.
Yeah. It did look good, didn't it? I'm worried that anything golf-like or roguelike, that always worries me, but
yeah, true.
Yeah, it looks fun. It looks good fun. Richard, you're a big golf person.
Yeah, I just think golf lends itself really well to video games. So any golf-based game, I'm immediately interested in. And this one looked to take the concept of it and apply it to a really unique situation.
I mean, you reviewed a golf game that was in the apocalypse or something recently.
Yeah. Golf Club Waste? No.
Oh yeah.
Golf Club Wasteland.
That's right. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And that was a similar 2D side-on golf game, but there was no pressure on dying so much as there will be in Curse to Golf.
Yeah.
That was much more of a chill game, but an interesting story as well.
Good. Right, Richard, your final game. Or is it James? James is first. James, your final game.
It's fine, just skip me over, it's fine. My final game, just to confirm, Trek to Yomi is coming to Game Pass. I've double checked.
Oh, is it? Brilliant. Well done, James.
So, you're welcome. I'm a bit of a sucker for a co-op game and a puzzler. So, Escape Academy seems like a game that would be right up my alley. It's basically a series of escape room type environments. You have to work in co-op with or single player with another person to solve puzzles and find items for clues. And I think we saw a little bit of a playthrough on the Twitch stream, which didn't really go that well, didn't it? Let's be honest. But it gave an idea that there's a bit of a puzzle element in the way you can use your mind as well as using your, like, having to, let's say, recreate there's another puzzle you have to recreate to then get the right arrows to input into a lock system. So it's a bit of mind and interactive puzzling, which I kind of quite like. And the fact there's a time pressure to it as well. I think they had 30 minutes to complete that whole area. I think when you're with a few mates, I think that really brings out the fun factor. That you're against the time and you'll work together and someone will definitely let you down. And it will cause mayhem. I think it's just good fun.
Yeah, I think the co-op stuff is that's the biggest bonus of that as well. I think you're right. Having that half an hour.
It lends itself well to streamers because you get people in stream to help. I think it's a really good concept for them.
Yeah.
I think they'll make the most of it. And that's definitely coming to Game Pass as well.
Yeah, that's good. I did. That's really good. In June. Ooh. Escape Academy, I like the look of that. And Richard, your final game that you can go for.
The final one, I think, got announced a few days before, but it's Flintlock. And we got a brief in-engine trailer of a woman and her pet, which people wanted to know in the chat whether this thing could be petted, that looked like a dog, but crossed with a fox as well.
That's right.
And I thought the trailer looked pretty cool. So there was this skeleton that sort of reanimated itself, and from the looks of it, the sword that had killed it then used it as a weapon. But she then suddenly whipped out this flintlock pistol and shot it. But you were sort of watching it, and the pistol didn't seem to fit the timeline of from what was around her. And that was one of the main selling points that the guy was he the director afterwards was saying, that it's set in medieval times, but with technology that's from 100 years or so or more afterwards. So there'll be a lot of explosions and bullets flying around everywhere. I think they previously did Ashen.
Yeah, which I really enjoyed.
Did you play that?
Yeah, I really enjoyed Ashen.
So whether it's a similar sort of concept to that in a different setting, there wasn't much given away in this trailer, but it looked very pretty, and he said it was done in the same engine, so arguably that's how it should look. They've just manipulated some of the character models for the trailer, and then at the end of it we got this weird looking thing that almost looked like it was Egyptian with its solar eclipse and hieroglyphs going on. But yeah, intrigued, maybe want to see a bit more about it.
Yeah, and we don't know. It's coming to Game Pass. It's coming in 2022. It had a brilliant bit of music, I thought, on that trailer. They did a really good job with that piece of music. Yeah, really looking forward to that. Flintlock, be interested to see what they do. I did like Ashen. The last game we're going to talk about is Paradise Killer, which is out now on Game Pass. Paradise Killer came out on PC, maybe on Switch as well, a while ago, and it really well acclaimed. You're in this sort of fantasy. It's a mixture of visual novel and a kind of like you're just moving along this 3D world. You're basically in this kind of fantasy world. You play this someone who's been on it's so heavy, the fantasy stuff to explain. But yeah, it's you're you're basically, there's been a murder, and you're going to go out and solve it in this kind of weird fantasy futuristic world. It's very stylized. It has that kind of like retro kind of music to it that people love. That almost like I always describe as sort of Sega music. It's that kind of visual novel, anime kind of feel to it. You can see why it's been really well reviewed. I'm reviewing it for us. It's not my type of thing, but it's really well done. Is that fair to say?
Have you started playing it?
Yeah.
Have you encountered the weird-looking creature with its bits hanging out yet?
I've encountered many strange things.
Is that the floppy night?
I was going to say, floppy nights.
Yeah. But yeah, I think people are going to love it. So if you're going to love playing it. Maybe it's just not for me, but I can appreciate how good it is. Good. Well, there you go. That's the Xbox Twitch. Not Twitch, Xbox ID. If you want more stuff on floppy nights, you come to the wrong place. And we enjoyed that. That was good. Well, we got through it. It's good. Let's do something we've been playing, I think. Finally, just do one game each, I think. If that's all right with you guys. Let's start with James, because James has been playing probably the biggest game. Never get down. What have you been playing?
The one you've probably been waiting for. The one you've got millions of questions about.
Yeah.
WWE 2K22. What are your questions?
Is it any good?
I mean, it's a really easy question. It is. It's good. I mean, it's a wrestling game, and it's good. It's a rarity these days. But the gameplay is much improved. I mean, you don't get half as many glitches and weird, wrestlers throwing themselves into the crowd and being able to come out, or hiding under the ring when you're doing a body slam, or merged into the ring post. There's none of that. It's nice and fluid. The moves hit well. Everything seems really smooth. And there's also, they've included like combos for each wrestler as well. So there's a lot more moves in the arsenal. And you can kind of learn a bit of how to use each wrestler to get better at it. There's a little mix between arcade and sim. The gameplay is great. The game mode's not so much. But I mean, I'll go into depth in the full review. But if you've got any questions about the game modes, shoot them my way now, Richard.
How is the My GM? Because we spoke about that a few weeks ago on the podcast, really.
I'll give you an example of why what put me off. Within the first 2 weeks of booking a show, I can only book 3 matches on each show, which is just a waste of time anyway. But I had Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins in a decent rivalry. In a main event, you got 2 stars. The rival show had T-Bar and Aria Daivari get a 3.5-star match in the main event. And I don't even remember who these guys are, let alone reckon they could put on a match better than 1 star. It just didn't make sense. And that's the issue with it. It's very basic in the way it doesn't really let you build proper stories. It's just, here's a rivalry, put me a match. You can only do single matches and tag teams. And there's no tag team belts either in the GM mode. So you've got 1 belt to go for the males and 1 for the females.
Right.
It's just really lazily done. It's like, this is what we've got. You have to make do with it for now. I will try and do better next year. So yeah, I'm not impressed with my GM at all.
I didn't understand any of that, James, so it's good.
That's alright.
I've got one more question.
Thank God.
Go for it.
Is Lana in it?
I mean, that's a question. Is Lana in it? I haven't seen her. I don't think... Oh, yes.
I'm out then. She is.
She is actually.
Oh, cool.
She's made the
I'll
cut
get it
somehow.
then.
Even though I've not seen her for ages. Looks like a lot of the characters in the roster, to be fair.
Are there still those that are now in AEW? Or have they not got those?
Well, obviously, Jeff's in there still. He's quite recent, Jeff Hardy. There's not many that are in AEW, but there's a lot that have been released. And you think, this was a year ago. Update the roster, for Christ's sake. But yeah, a lot of people that are coming on TV now for WWE are coming in paid DLC, which is a bit of a kick in the teeth. You know, at least put them in for free or something. But yeah, gameplay great. Game mode's iffy. But it's definitely a better game.
That's the headline.
It's
That's the tagline. That's the whole review.
Darren, have you got any questions about this?
Is that the main improvement on the last one? Because didn't it skip a year? I've read. So is the gameplay what they've improved this time round versus the last game they released?
Yeah, they improved the gameplay and ironed out the horrendous amount of bugs and glitches. It was absolutely littered with them.
Is it a different team who have got the franchise now, or is it the same people for 2 years
Still
ago?
Visual Concepts.
Right, okay.
I think I don't know if it was the last one, the one before, they were working with Ukes. And Ukes have gone now, so it's just Visual Concepts.
Right, okay.
But I think it's a bit on the rock still.
Yeah, I've heard they might be going next year.
Oh.
Yeah, they were talking to EA about them doing it. Which I'm sure that'd be a great partnership. EA is very good at, making money out of solid games.
I mean, the cynical part of me does make me wonder with these yearly games whether they purposely make something terrible one year to then improve it the next year to give a sense of progression for the series. If they kind of run out of ideas.
Absolutely.
That's just cynic.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think you're giving them too much credit saying they created a bad version last year.
Okay.
On purpose.
Good. Well, there you go. That's over. Thank you, James.
It's very enthusiastic.
Let's talk some sense with Darren. I'm upsetting all the massive wrestling fans. There's loads of them. There's Darren. What have you got to talk about?
So I can't remember if I talked about this a few weeks ago, but I recently reviewed a game called Submerged Hidden Depths, which came out about a week ago, maybe a bit longer. So it was originally a Google Stadia exclusive. Obviously, it's not going so well for Google, so it's made its way onto other formats. And it's actually a sequel to a game released 7-ish years ago. And it's purely an exploration game. And it's quite relaxing. It looks beautiful. It sounds beautiful. You basically have to explore a sunken city with just the tops of buildings sticking out, and discover journal entries to figure out what's happened. There's relics to dredge up from the ocean floor. You can find upgrades for your boat, which is how you get along. It's a bit like kind of Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. You kind of nip from place to place. I just loved it. I played it and got all the achievements and 100%'d it yesterday, and I just couldn't stop playing it. It was just, I think the coin was a relax explorathon. That's how they that's how somebody's described it, and the term's caught on. But it's brilliant. I really enjoyed it. The first game came into some criticism because it was a beautiful world, but there wasn't much to do. So they've chucked in a load of stuff to find, and it's still a fairly short game, especially if you just play the main kind of story. But you'd be missing the point. It's all about absorbing yourself in the world. So I think you'd really like it, Gareth.
Oh, good. I think, James, you did the first one. Did you, James? Or have I got that? Have I mucked this up again?
Yeah.
I did. Darren reminded me last time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Like Darren said, it just was lacking a little bit. It was a really nice game, but it just needed a bit more to it. And it sounds like they've got it wrong.
Yeah,
Right.
they have, and we had an interview with some of the team as well, which is on the site. Went up last week, so if you're interested, there's plenty more information on there. But I'd recommend giving it a look. It's a really, really nice game.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Good. Richard, what have you been playing?
I've been playing the big new release this week, and that is Grand Theft Auto 5.
Oh, deja vu.
Back again, like a renegade
Back again
master.
for the third time. I can't believe it's happened, but here we are. And they have changed things for the new version up a little bit. So previously, when you jumped into online with a new character, you were sort of thrust into this world of griefers with nothing but a pistol. And they have changed it now, so it's kind of similar a little bit to Red Dead Redemption 2, where you sort of pick a career path. And then you get given missions associated with that career path. So I can't honestly remember how it used to start on the online, but I know you weren't long before you would. Yeah, it wasn't long before you were stealing cars for Simeone. I'm sure that was early on in the online from before, and I think all the missions are still there, but depending on which career path that you pick, these missions get a bit more tailored for you, so to speak. And then there's obviously the single player component, which is still there and still exactly the same as it was in 2013, just with a few new visual upgrades. But they have split the two up now, so if you purely wanted to play the online, that's there for you. Or if you wanted to play the single player, that's there for you. You don't have to buy the full package anymore. And it is what it is. I hate that term, but I don't know how else to say it. There must be the odd person that's never played GTA 5 out there. But if you haven't, then
Sound
and you own a new console.
It's depressing.
Although it's £17.50.
I know.
Which is half price for 3 months. So if you don't get in these next 3 months, it's going to be £35.
Oh my god!
At that point, it will be nearly 9 years old.
If you want to have a go and just see the world, because I've done it, I've had it. If you got a PlayStation on PlayStation 5, the online is free for 3 months. So I downloaded it just to see what the world looked like and that path. And it's interesting because the world obviously has had a bit of a upgrade visually. So it just looks a bit neater, doesn't it? But what's interesting is it just looks a bit empty. Of what from the last generation. It doesn't look. It doesn't. It does just looks a bit. Yeah, it just looks a bit empty now. So
I know that they've added extra traffic in there from the previous version to sort of fill it out a little bit, but it is still nearly a 9-year-old game now, and it is starting to show its age a little bit, especially with the single player, which I've been focusing on. Because I've got to do 2 reviews for it, so that's the first one that I'm going to be doing. But there is something about it you like, especially because there's not been any additional story added to it. It just feels very much like a snapshot of this world from 2013. And the world's moved on. The world's really changed. And you're surprised by how much when you go back to a game like this now that's satirical, but it's satirical for nearly a decade ago.
Yeah, of course. Just do the other one. Just do the new game. What are you doing? Just work on that.
I have a question, Richard. Apart from cornering the small market of people who haven't played GTA 5 and may have been waiting for this 3rd iteration, is it worth playing through again, do you think? Or are you not there yet in terms of a decision?
So I went to the pub yesterday and I spoke to my 2 friends while we were there because we used to play a lot of GTA Online. And I said to them, I'm sorry guys, but I've had to migrate my character over to this new version, which now means that if I want to play online with them, because they've only got the Xbox One version, I have to start a brand new character.
Really? In the world of cross-platform and all this? Oh, that's surprising.
Wow.
Yeah, that's gone now. It's not one that you can sort of flip over between the two.
I bet they were relieved.
I was relieved.
Yeah.
To be honest, because I didn't want to do any more online heists. KO Perico one we've run hundreds of times and I'm done with it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I just want them to remake Vice City. That's all I want from Rockstar at the moment. I feel like I'm waiting for that for an eternity. It's the best one in my eyes. I loved it.
Okay. I'm going to just really briefly mention the game coming out tomorrow that I've been playing. It's an FMV game by Wales International, and it's called Who Pressed Mute on Uncle Marcus, which is a great title. But the premise is it was filmed during lockdown, another one of those games, and it's basically you're in a family Zoom quiz, and Uncle Marcus says, "I've been poisoned by one of the family," and you've got to work out. You play this girl called Abby. You've got to work out which one of the family did it. So it's like a whodunit on an online quiz.
That sounds great.
On HMV. It's really good fun. It's gameplay, options are the limit. It's limited, and it does really. You have to do multiple playthroughs to actually work out who's done it. So it does really encourage that multiple playthrough. But the problem is you can't skip some of the scenes, so you're watching stuff about 8 times over. That's my only criticism. But it's good. It's really good fun. It's out tomorrow. If you love your HMV, it's really camp. It's great. It's great performances, and it's some fun there. Good. Right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. What are you looking forward to next week? Richard, what are you looking forward to?
Out tomorrow is Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins, which is another game. It's the action RPG retelling of the first Final Fantasy game done in a Soulsborne type way, which sounds interesting. It's been getting really varied reviews. But I'm looking forward to seeing how I find it as a massive Final Fantasy fan.
Yeah, good. And that's going to take you hours as well. GTA this. God.
Yeah.
And then I still need to play Elden Ring.
Oh my God. Yeah. Darren, what about you?
So I've just remembered there's an embargo lifting next week, which I'm excited to talk about on next week's podcast. So stay tuned for that. But it's the final of The Apprentice as well, which is my guilty pleasure. And they're all terrible this year. I wouldn't give any of them a job, but it is very entertaining watching them all flap around like idiots. So I'll be watching that.
Good. James, what about you?
Hopefully I'll find a game that you can appreciate me talking about, guys. Next week.
I loved it. The fans will love it even more. I'm sure it's in our title. It's just I don't know what you're saying.
I'll find something to talk about next week.
Good.
Something to look forward to now.
Brilliant, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Now, if we need to find you and chat to you, where would we find you, Richard?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Dobbo1912.
And Darren, what about you?
I'm on Twitter only at 27Darren.
Good. And James?
On Twitter and Instagram at OKUKO.
Good. And you can find me on GB Variety on Twitter and Twitch. But for now, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
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 You've been listening to the official podcast of TheXboxHub.com. You'll be able to find all the notes of this show at www.TheXboxHub.com/podcast. You can also check out our social feeds on Instagram and Twitter at The Xbox Hub and search for The Xbox Hub on Facebook.